What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to NFL Turf Talk here on the DSM Media Turf Talk YouTube channel. I'm one half of your host, Dylan Davis. You can find me on Twitter at DylanJD98. To my right, my co-host, Scotty. You can find him as well at Scotty Drown. Today, we are going over the NFC North Division. We've wrapped up all things AFC. You guys can check those out on the Turf Talk YouTube channel. Subscribe. But now we're on to the NFC, and we're going to start off with a division that looks totally different from last year because one man in specific is gone. That is Aaron Rodgers. The Green Bay Packers and Matt LaFleur have a new quarterback at the helm, and that is Jordan Love, who's been waiting for this day for the last 3 or 4 years, finally gets his time to be a starting quarterback. The Chicago Bears go out. They add some pieces on the defensive side of the ball. They go out and try to get Justin Fields a true number one wide receiver when they traded for DJ Moore over the year. The Minnesota Vikings are making headlines. They've released Dalvin Cook. They're letting Alexander Madison take over the carries there. And then the Detroit Lions, obviously, drafting Jahmyr Gibbs as high as they did and adding on the defensive side of the ball. They've made some noise as well, man. So interesting division, not that all exciting, but could be tough throughout the middle of the regular season to see who's going to come out ahead.
Yeah, no, I think this division, kind of how you just described it there. It's interesting, but not exciting, or it's going to be a tight race, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It will be interesting down the stretch to see who wins it,
Right.
But it doesn't matter who wins it because none of these teams are winning the Super Bowl. So
correct.
That's kind of where I'm at with this division. No true.
Can I go a step further?
Yeah.
None of these teams are winning a playoff game.
Fair.
I'll put my mark down there. None
of
these teams are winning a playoff game.
Yeah, I'm with you. So maybe that's where we start.
Yeah. And it's also intriguing because like I started off with the fact that Rodgers is gone. He's a career Packer for our entire lives, right? So it's not only new for the Jets and him, which we've already broken down, but it's life without him in Green Bay now and how they can move forward. And let's be honest, this division was being run by Aaron Rodgers and the Packers for the better half of over a decade. The Vikings would win the division from time to time, but we don't trust Kirk Cousins. We'll get into that during the show as well. But so it's anyone's division, honestly. Obviously, the Lions had a hack at it in week 18 last year. We're unable to come away and make the playoffs, but they're an interesting piece nonetheless this season, man. But let's start defensively. We don't have to go get real intricate with our rankings and why this team's up here because none of them blow you off the out of the water. On paper, name-wise. But which team do you think has the best defense? Which team do you think has defense that can steal them a couple games alone and maybe give them an advantage come standing time towards the playoffs?
Yeah, I actually went with the Green Bay Packers in this category. When I look at their defense, it looks honestly pretty well-rounded all around. I mean, the secondary with Rasul Douglas, Jair Alexander, you got your cornerback duo there. They got backups in Keyshawn Nixon and Eric Stokes. So they got some nice depth there. Mm-hmm. You got Rudy Ford, who's okay, safety. Darnell Savage, he's pretty sturdy. But the linebacking core, Rashawn Gary, he's really come on as like an edge rushing type of guy. He can get to the quarterback. Quay Walker had some bonehead moments throughout last season, but he's still a good, solid player. But it's really Preston Smith and Kenny Clark that round out those edge rushers for me that push the Green Bay Packers to the top of this list for me.
Yeah, it's interesting, man, because I would probably agree with you. They've been the most proven, and I don't think they've lost too much, right? You lost Darius Smith now, obviously he's gone from there. But you haven't lost too much. They're the veteran group of this team with a rookie quarterback. Everyone jumps on the Lions bandwagon. And I'm not saying they're wrong to do so, but this was a team for the better half of 10 games last season, if not a little bit more, that was the worst defense in football, allowed the most points per game in football. Now, they got their act together as the year went on. They've added pieces. CJ Gardner-Johnson obviously went there. Aiden Hutchinson coming off his rookie campaign. He's real. So they have some pieces going for them in Detroit. But I don't think they're a more talented unit than the Packers, and the Packers are definitely more proven because even last year, with as dismal as things were in Green Bay, with the quarterback and ownership fighting and the fan base and everything like that, this defense at least allowed them to be competitive at times
Yeah,
throughout the season. They've
exactly.
been to NFC championships. They've won they play in those kind of conditions. I do still think they're the scrappiest, toughest defense in this NFC North division as well. After them, do you think the Lions have kind of garnered the respect to jump to number 2? I don't like the Vikings defense at all. I'll tell you that right now. Do you think the Bears did enough in the offseason to add to their unit?
I do have the Bears at number 2 here, and it's based off the additions that they made this offseason as well,
Yannick
which
Ngakoue being the newest one.
kind of stacks up their defense a
Mm-hmm.
little bit, makes it a little intimidating. You put TJ Edwards in the middle. We know how successful he was in Philly. We'll see if that translates. Tremaine Edmonds, the better of the
Mm-hmm.
Edmonds brothers, right? He heads there as well. So they kind of stacked up their linebacking unit, added Yannick Ngakoue, as you mentioned, who can provide some edge help.
Yep.
Yeah, I like this team. And then you go to their
They have
secondary with
2 good
Daquan.
safeties.
Yeah, two good safeties. Jalen Johnson looked good as a rookie last year. Kyler Gordon showed some signs as a slot corner. You know what's interesting though? Just going away from the
Yeah.
Bears themselves, but going back to the Lions. What's interesting with the Lions, man, you look at their depth chart, and I know this isn't completely up to date. We're in the preseason, for goodness
Yeah.
sakes. But CGJ not listed as a safety, not listed as a starter. He's listed as a backup corner on ESPN. Once again,
That's
ESPN may be inaccurate.
yeah.
I'm not sure exactly, but that's interesting to me because I look at who's in front of him, and I'm wondering why he would be behind any of these guys at any position. But nonetheless, they did go out and draft Brian Branch at safety as well.
Yep.
So maybe their plan the whole time was to move CGJ back to that slot corner. Aiden Hutchinson, he's an exciting player.
Yeah,
I
he's
think
real,
that's
dude.
probably where that hype comes from
Right.
for that Lions unit. But when you look outside of Aiden Hutchinson, man, I mean, Charles Harris, he's solid.
They drafted the
Jack
kid out of
Campbell,
Iowa. Yeah.
rookie. Alec Anzalone, I mean, he's solid. I mean, nothing blows me off the page. I
Right.
think their offense is going to carry this team again. While they'll get some explosive plays from Aiden Hutchinson, they might get some interceptions with CGJ mixed in back there. But overall, I don't love this defense. But to be fair, to your point, I'm not a big fan of the Minnesota Vikings either. I would put them both at the bottom of this division defensively.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the only reason I give the Lions an edge there is because I do think that they've done enough this offseason to bring in a couple different playmakers. They have more playmakers, right?
Yeah,
You talked about
I
Hutchinson
agree.
out of last year's draft. Jack Campbell was picked top 20 this year at the linebacker group. You draft Brian Branch, who we even wanted here in Philadelphia, so I think he'll get a lot of playing time, if not be a starter at some point this year. CJ Gardner-Johnson coming over from the Eagles. You can play him kind of as this hybrid safety corner type of role.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how they use them. Now you go over to this Vikings defense, which has been an issue for them the last couple of years. Yeah, you still have Harrison Smith, who cool, he hits hard, right?
I think he's overrated, man. There's a lot of guys
Yeah.
that are, operating off their
Danielle
past
Hunter.
success.
Danielle Hunter is your best defensive player, and
Yeah.
he's not better than the Lions' best defensive player. He's not a better pass rusher than the Lions' best defensive pass rusher. So I think that I would give the Lions the edge there just because of what they added this offseason through the draft. And they have more playmakers. I don't like Minnesota's defense at all.
Yeah. I'm not a Harrison Smith fan. He was solid. It blew my mind that he made the top 100. Like, honestly, I just watching him play, watching what the Eagles did to him last year in week 2 of the season. I mean, my respect for Harrison Smith as a top safety in the league went completely to the toilet after what I saw from him last year. But maybe I'm being
lots of missed plays
unfair.
back there. Lots of missed opportunities back there. Now, offensively, this is the more interesting part of every division, right? Who wants to talk about defense? Let's talk about offense. Let's talk about quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And this division lacks QB play. Now,
sus.
Not worse than the other divisions. We broke down the AFC South. They're not world beaters at that position either. But you have a guy like Kirk Cousins, who is the definition of what you just said, mid, right? Jared Goff. Maybe last year you could say that he took a step up from mid, but let's be honest with what Jared Goff is. He's not a top 10 quarterback. He's just probably right in the middle of the pack, maybe slightly in the head of the top 15, right?
Yeah.
You get to Justin Fields. Lots of excitement around Justin Fields this year for a lot of people. I need to see it. I know we're kind of running back the same story, all the question marks I had with Jalen Hurts, and I looked
Yeah,
like a fool. But I at least knew enough that I saw Jalen Hurts take strides with his arm
yeah,
his rookie year that I knew he could do that. I didn't watch a lot of Bears football. The Eagles did play them. Justin Fields is an incredible athlete. He's
yeah,
exciting. He's fast. He's shifty. He had that one touchdown run against us when he was sacked 18 times
yeah,
and got away. I didn't see anything with his arm.
yeah,
Like, tell me if I'm wrong. I didn't see a goddamn thing with his arm that lets me know he's going to take a
yeah,
stride. Now, they did go out and get him that number one wide receiver, right? Same
yeah.
script that the Eagles did for Hurts. The Bills did for Josh Allen. All these guys. DJ Moore, not the same caliber as Stephon Diggs and A.J. Brown.
No.
So interesting to talk about the offense here. Would you agree that Detroit runs away with it?
Yeah, I actually do. I have Detroit slated as my number one offense, and it's based off what they did last year. They scored a ton of points, and I think, while I loved their running back situation last year with Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift, I love it this year too. I mean, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, from what we're seeing out of camp
Yep.
about Jahmyr Gibbs and his receiving threat ability, his explosive playability. He's just going to add a similar element to their offense that DeAndre Swift would have added, or had they kept him, right? Except Jahmyr Gibbs doesn't come with those injury concerns. So there's your reasoning why they moved on from Swift and went that route. But they bring balance to this offense, right? You have a
Yeah.
pounder in David Montgomery. You have kind of that electric pass catching back in Jahmyr Gibbs. They get Jamison Williams back after that suspension at some point. We'll see what he's looking like. He obviously was highly renowned coming out of the draft. Missed most of last season, if not the whole season, from what I remember.
I think he missed.
Maybe played a couple games at the end. I don't
He
even
got
know.
hurt in week
He was
2
on
or
the
something.
PUP list for
Yeah.
the longest.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, you have Amon-Ra St. Brown out there. Sam Laporta, rookie tight end. He's been reported as really catching on quickly there, getting a lot of targets. So I think, Jared Goff, another year in this offense, another year with Amon-Ra St. Brown to build that connection. I think he can do enough to
Marvin
make
Jones
this,
Jr. is a good
this
slot receiver
offense a
too.
top tier offense in the NFL. Yeah. Marvin Jones, they got a couple guys. I'm not sure if they held on to let me check here. Did they hang on to DJ Chark or no? He goes somewhere
No.
else. He must have went somewhere else. Went out and traded for Denzel Mims. That's like a shot in the dark, right?
Josh
We don't know
Reynolds.
what he is. Josh Reynolds is a solid wide receiver. So they got options out there. And Jared Goff, as you mentioned, around that 15-ish range of quarterback, I would say. And he had a great season last year, honestly. If you look at the numbers, he had a really good season. So I expect them to keep that up and kind of continue to build that identity offensively.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, man. I have the Lions at number one for all the reasons you laid out. They don't have the best player in the division on the offensive side of the ball. We'll get to Minnesota in a second here. But they do have more than everybody else, right? And you could make the argument that Jared Goff is the best quarterback. I don't know if you would put him above Kirk Cousins or not. But I think he's kind of perfect for this offense that they're trying to put together. Kirk Cousins and his turnover issues and his prime time, shortcomings and his playoff shortcomings. You might trust Jared Goff a little bit more at this point, even though Kirk Cousins is probably the better, thrower of the football.
Jared Goff's been
right
to
now.
the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's very true. So yeah, I had the Lions one for every single reason that you laid out. Marvin Jones Jr., obviously, I believe he started with Detroit, but he's coming back from Jacksonville, right?
Yeah,
he was in Jacksonville last year. Excuse me. So you bring him back, and you add to that wide receiving group as well. Shout out to my boy Craig Reynolds from Kutztown as well. But coming in at number 2, I mean, I had the Minnesota Vikings. You have, obviously, you're letting go of Dalvin Cook, but Alexander Mattison is good enough to be an RB1 in this league, and you saw the strides last year. Now, they lack depth behind him. I don't know who Ty Chandler or Keen or Kenane. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name. I don't want to butcher it. So they lack depth in the running back room, but you have Justin Jefferson. You drafted Jordan Addison highly. You have KJ Osborne as a slot receiver that can stretch the field. You traded for TJ Hawkinson, who we just spoke about with our top 10 tight ends. Their offensive line stinks, but they have the weapons to be good enough to be number 2 in this division for me, offensively.
Yeah, I would agree with you there with Minnesota. I think they're going to put up numbers because that's what they do, but they They honestly remind me of the Cowboys with like empty numbers, like numbers that
That's
just
true.
don't mean much, right? And that's kind of what Kirk Cousins. I would put him almost in that category with Dak Prescott of just
Yeah.
garbage time, right? And like they'll get down by 25 points, they'll have to pass the ball a whole bunch, they'll rack up a bunch of yards and come back. But yeah, I would agree with them as the number 2 offense in this division just because of what they can do through the air. There's going to be a little drop off, in my opinion, no Dalvin Cook. I mean, people could say what they want about the guy. We obviously had him ranked top 10, and our
Mhm.
running back still isn't on a team. But Minnesota decided to move past him, right? And I know part of that he discussed it on NFL Game Day. Part of that was them just wanting to become more of a pass happy team. They want to pass the ball a lot more. So we'll see what that does for their offense. They'll take a step back in the run game. Added Jordan Addison to that wide receiving core, rookie wide receiver. Everybody's pretty high on him. Who is the other wide receiver that I'm forgetting about? It's actually one I actually like. KJ Osborne.
Yeah.
He's the third or second wide
Yeah,
receiver,
he can
depending
take
on
the
how they
top
play
off of
out.
a defense.
Yeah, I like him. Obviously lost Adam Thielen to the Panthers, so got to replace him, but they got the guys there to
Yeah.
do that. Yeah, Minnesota offensively, they're a-okay with me. I think it takes them a little while some games to turn it on, but eventually they get there. They can put up some points.
Yeah. Number 3, I had the Chicago Bears for the upside. I
Yeah,
know I just kind of put down Justin Fields' ability to push the
yeah,
ball down the field, but I am going to give him, room to change my mind, right?
yeah,
I'm going to see what he can do with DJ Moore. You brought in Chase Claypool, who I don't like, but he is a third option for you. You
yeah.
still have Darnell Mooney, who could take the top off the defense. You got Amon Roz. Is it brother? Is his cousin? I don't know.
I think it's his
Uh,
brother.
I
Yeah,
think it is his brother. You have Khalil Herbert, Deontay Foreman. It's an okay run game, but when you have the ability that Justin Fields has to take off, he's a big part of that run game as well.
yeah,
So I had them 3 because Jordan Love is not an NFL quarterback. And I know if I'm giving Justin Fields the benefit of the doubt to prove himself, why not give Jordan Love the benefit of the doubt? I just can't. I haven't heard positive things about it. I haven't heard positive things about him since he's come into the league in camp and preseason. The little bit of time he's been on the field with Rodgers there, I
yeah,
don't think Jordan Love is going to have a successful career as an NFL starting quarterback. If Aaron Rodgers, although he was mentally checked out and didn't really care, it seemed like if Aaron Rodgers struggled with this receiving group last year, what the hell do you think Jordan Love is going to do in year number 2 with Christian Watson and Romeo Daubs, whatever the hell his name is? Jaden Reed, don't know him. Luke Musgrave, don't know him. Their backups, don't know them. I don't think Green Bay is. I think, dude, I'm being serious. I think they're going to be a bottom 3 offense in the league this year.
Bottom 3.
I
Wow.
think they're bad. I
I'm
think they're
trying to
bad.
think of all the offenses in the league, man. I don't know. I don't think they'll be that bad,
I
man.
think
I
they're
think the
bad.
run game can keep them afloat.
No.
I do have Chicago ahead of them because Chicago has a better run game than them. And I do expect Justin Fields, excuse me, to be better than Jordan Love. There's two sides to the Jordan Love thing, man. It's like, did they keep Rodgers after they drafted him so long because he wasn't ready, because he wasn't showing anything in camp, right? And you dealt with Rodgers and this toxic behavior over the last 2 seasons or so, season and a half, whatever you want to call it. You didn't have to do that if you had a guy waiting behind him ready to go and you could just trade him for assets. So
Yeah.
it's interesting from that perspective. But then from the other perspective, did they push him out too soon this offseason, right? Was he willing to stay and they wanted to push him out? Now, obviously, Rodgers said he
Well, if
wanted to
it's
be ready
too
to
soon,
go.
Jordan Love's never going to be ready.
Exactly. So
Never.
there's two sides to that table, but I'm gonna go with you. I think that this is gonna be. I think he's gonna be a mediocre quarterback. I think he could
You're
be a
you're
game
being a lot
manager
nicer than I am.
if the team was better around him. He could be a game manager, maybe.
Maybe.
But yeah, I'm with you. This team bottoms out for me in this division, of course. Bottom 3 offense. I would have to think about it. I mean, it's not out of the realms of possibilities if Jordan Love is terrible.
After we break down all the divisions, we can kind of go through and
Yeah,
do those kind of other rankings.
because
But
I think a
I mean,
team's
maybe
like,
I'm over exaggerating. I'd have to look through, but I'm being dead serious when I'd say, like, we talked about Indianapolis and how bad their offense is going to be. I have
yeah,
more intrigue with Anthony Richardson than I do Jordan Love. I have more intrigue with CJ Stroud than I do with Jordan Love with the Texans. I think both those offenses could put up more, could be a little bit more productive than Green Bay's. Like, listen, and I hear you. I love their running
Yeah,
back duo. I love Aaron Jones. He's a top 10 running back. You and I talked about it. AJ Dillon is a very, very good number 2, could start for a lot of teams.
yeah,
What are they supposed to do if Jordan Love can't move the ball down the field and there's
yeah,
8 guys in the box at the same time?
yeah.
What are they going to do? They're not going to be able to go anywhere.
We're gonna see,
So
man.
maybe I'm being too harsh.
I'll give
Maybe I'm
Jordan
not
Love
being
the
harsh
benefit of
enough.
the doubt,
We'll
man.
find out in a
I'm a
few
nice
weeks.
guy.
Yeah, you are a nice guy. I almost dropped my pen on me, but yeah, I don't buy it. Let's get into standings before we wrap this thing up. All right.
Yes,
So
sir.
coming in at number 4, I do have the Green Bay Packers for every reason I just laid out to you. Even though we have their defense still probably the best defense in this division, if not top 2, it's not enough. Nothing is enough to overcome how putrid I think this offense is going to be. When I said bottom 3, I kind of mean bottom 3. I don't care what Matt LaFleur tries to do. I think they're bad. So I have Green Bay number 4. When you have that quarterback, lack of weapons, I don't know, pass wide receiver 1 and 2 who aren't wide receivers 1 and 2 for a lot of teams. I don't know who the hell these other guys are. So no, I don't think they're going to do anything. I think the Packers are going to be pretty damn bad this year. Maybe I'll be surprised. Coming in at number 3 for me, I do have the Chicago Bears. I like what they did defensively. I like the addition of DJ Moore. Trust me, I get the excitement and surrounding Justin Fields. But at the end of the day, I trust Minnesota's offense to win them a couple more games than I do Justin Fields. I have the Vikings coming in at number 2 for that reason. I hate their defense, but I don't love the Bears defense so much more than the Vikings defense to where I'm like, no, the Bears are going to win more football games because of that unit. I think both are, I think the Bears are middle of the pack to slightly below middle of the pack defense. I think the Vikings are a bad defense, but I'll trust Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins and TJ Hawkinson to win games more than the Bears. At number 1, I do have the Detroit Lions winning this division. I think finally, for the first time in I don't know how many years, I don't even remember if Stafford won the division. No, I don't know. They didn't make the playoffs when Stafford was there with Megatron, so they didn't win the division even then. It's been over a decade, maybe a decade and a half since another team not named Minnesota or Green Bay has won this division. I think the Lions get it done. I think their offense is good enough. I think they have enough playmakers defensively. Dan Campbell, although we were making fun of him a year and a half ago for his coaching style, something worked, something clicked last year for this unit. I think the Lions get the job done and make the playoffs this year.
Fair enough, man. My list looks a lot different than yours, I guess.
Okay.
So number 4 for me is actually going to be the Minnesota Vikings. And
Oh man,
I'm telling you, I'm not high on this Vikings team. I thought last season was a complete fluke, and that New York Giants playoff game confirmed that for me, man. That team is sorry, and when they can flop, when they can flake, they will do it. And I think this year, all those slow starts, not being able to stay in games early, and then coming back on them, and leading the league in comebacks. I think all that stuff stops. You stop getting lucky. The luck runs out. The Justin Jefferson catch over 4 people to beat the Bills. I don't think that type of stuff is happening this season. I think Justin Jefferson will have a season. Like I said, I think Kirk Cousins will fill the stat sheet, but I think they just get a little bit unlucky this season as they go down the stretch. And like I said, I'm just not sold on this Minnesota Vikings team. They can put up as many offensive numbers as they want. I'm just not going to believe it, man, because when it gets tough, they soften up. And I think that's going to show a little bit earlier this season, man. Number 3, I do have the Green Bay Packers. I'm with you. I'm not a Jordan Love guy. I'm not saying that he's going to prop this team up and take them to the promised land. But I do love their defense. I like their defense in this division specifically. And I do like the running game, man. They rely on it, and I think that's a good.
They're going to need to
this season. It's cold up there in Green Bay, man. So if they can play it smart, I think they can steal some games with their defense in the running game. So I'm not as low on them as you are, but I am not a Jordan Love caper by any means. I have to clarify that. This one's going to surprise you, man. I'm going with the Detroit Lions at number 2. I am going with the Chicago Bears. Look, I told you before the show, man, I was throwing a dart in the dark. I don't even know if that is an analogy, if that's proper, but that's what I'm going with because that's what I'm doing with this team right now. Do I think that Justin Fields is going to take some Jalen Hurts-esque leap? No, not by any means. But I do think he gets better this year. I think he gets better as a passer. I think a lot of it was up here with him. And improving that offensive line around him will help him as well. But giving him that option in DJ Moore, I think that number one wide receiver will help a good bit. He's a reliable receiver, which that's just something they didn't have. They have guys like Darnell Mooney who can make the big play. He can take the top off a defense, but he's not reliable. DJ Moore can take the top off the defense and also get you first downs. So I like that setup there. I know David Montgomery left, right? They lose their top running back. I like Khalil Herbert. I think he's a better pass-catching running back. Probably not the guy on the ground that David Montgomery is, but they brought in Deontay Foreman to lead the way there as well. So yeah, Justin Fields leading me to the top of this division, man. The thing with the Detroit Lions, let me touch on them at number 2 because I know it feels like shade. Everybody's going with the Detroit Lions, and rightfully so. That offense is explosive. The defense should take a step to get better this season, especially compared to last. But I think the Detroit Lions are just going to Detroit Lion, man. I think when the going gets tough, they had a chance last season, man. I talked about the fraudulent Vikings, the Packers that were just in turmoil with Aaron Rodgers in his last season, and they still couldn't get the job done down the stretch. But we'll see, man. I like the Lions offense. I'm not going to sit here and, joke around and play them like that. I love their offense, quite honestly. But I'm going to go with the Bears, take this division, man. For my future mother-in-law, Kathy, Bears fan. It's for you. It's for you, the Bears.
Kathy, I hate the Bears your bubble. The Bears aren't winning the division.
Justin Fields.
Listen, I don't know.
I got him in Dynasty. It's my quarterback. I have Joe Burrow too, so we balance it out. But
I don't know what's crazier to me: the fact that you have the Bears winning the division, or that you're so low on the Minnesota Vikings to go to the bottom of the division. I don't know what's crazier. I know. Listen, I hear you, man. I think they're as fraudulent can be. I think when it goes and gets tough, they're a soft team. I agree with you. I think and it starts with their quarterback, their head coach, their defense. I think they're a soft team that can put up great numbers, and they got a lot of highlight reels that you're going to want to watch.
Yeah.
But that's postseason football. I think the offense is still good enough with those numbers to win a decent amount of regular season football games. They're going to play the Packers twice, who you know how I feel about the Packers. They're going to play the Bears twice. I'm not that high on the Bears as you are. Maybe you have them getting swept. I don't. Whatever. And I don't know what the rest of their schedule looks like.
Getting swept by the division.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm not a fan of the Vikings whatsoever.
One thing to point out, they should get the first place schedule of the division, so it should be a little bit tougher. But
listen, when they walk into the link again on Thursday Night Football, Week 2, whoever made that decision, that scheduling decision, to just run back the same home opener on Thursday night for the Eagles, you're a bonehead. Why? That's not exciting. I want to see something. Great, I get Kirk Cousins and the Vikings on Thursday night again. Nothing different. Not Monday night, Thursday night. But yeah. Or no, it wasn't Monday night. I'm tripping. It was Monday night. Whatever.
It was Monday night. Yeah.
Whatever.
Thursday night.
Whatever.
Same difference. Prime time, nonetheless.
Take back everything I said.
We'll see. I threw a shot in the dark, man. We got to see if it sticks.
I get you, man. I hope I get you.
This division's wild. It's shitty, but it's going to be interesting at the same time. I think, like, when you look at these teams, man, couldn't the best team end up being like 10-7? Like, do you feel that way, or do you feel that somebody's going to run away with it?
No, not at all. Even though I think that the Lions might run away with this division, the Lions aren't better than 11-6 max. That is maximum.
I feel that.
Me.
I feel that.
10-7 is probably a little bit more.
If the Lions come to fruition, to be fair to you and to the fans, if the Lions come to fruition, they will win the division.
Yeah.
They have the best offense.
Right?
I
hear you.
Their defense is probably the one that's middle of this division. But good enough for that offense. So we'll see if
I feel about the Lions the same way I feel about the Seahawks. The Seahawks did make the playoffs last year, though. Yeah. But like, you got the most out of Geno Smith last year if you're the Seahawks, and you got an ass kicking in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
At home, I believe that game was. I could be wrong, but I think it was in Seattle.
Yeah.
If you're the Lions, you got a career year out of Jared Goff. and it wasn't good enough to make the postseason.
Yeah.
So, and Aaron Rodgers wasn't the reason why. The Packers
Right, it
didn't
was
make
the
the postseason.
Vikings,
The
right?
Vikings
Like,
were.
yeah.
So it is interesting from that point of view. Did they do enough on the defensive side to overcome those weaknesses last year?
Yeah.
Is Marvin Jones and Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery a difference maker enough from the group you had last year
Jamison
to
Williams gave
be
you
that
income.
difference maker? I don't think it's anything to me. I'm not pro Lions like a lot of people are. I'm anti the rest of the division. And I think the Lions 10, 11 wins is a good season, and a good season will win this bad division, in my opinion. That's where I'm at when it comes to them. But I got to admit, man, this breaking down this division was a lot more fun than I expected it to be. Wasn't looking forward to it. A lot better than the AFC South, hands down. Maybe the NFC will just bring those kind of vibes moving forward. When we're back next week, we'll be breaking down the NFC South. Oh boy, another division that's doesn't look so fun from the outside looking in. But
do I have the Falcons winning
there.
that division? No, I'm just playing.
Yeah, right. No, Baker Mayfield's going to win that division.
Yeah, hey, maybe.
With that said, guys, don't forget, check us out on Twitter at DSM_media and subscribe to all the new YouTube channels. NFL Turf Talk, the DSM NFL Turf Talk YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button. The DSM-Philadelphia YouTube channel. Subscribe. And the DSM Media, Scotty Talks NBA YouTube channel. Subscribe. Have a great rest of your day.